The fever made everything blurry. Sarah's legs shook as she stumbled down the dark street, her breath coming in short gasps. Behind her, she could hear them getting closer, the same 3 men who had been following her for the past 6 blocks. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. "There she is," one of them shouted. "Don't let her get away." Sarah didn't know why they wanted her. All she knew was that she had to run. The medicine she took for her sickness made her weak, but fear gave her strength she didn't know she had. The street lights looked like stars dancing in front of her eyes. Everything felt like a bad dream. She turned the corner and saw a row of expensive cars parked outside a fancy hotel. Her legs almost gave out. She was so tired. So scared. The men's voices got louder behind her. "Please," she whispered to herself. "Please let me be safe." That's when she saw it, a black car with its engine running. The driver's door was open just a crack. Without thinking, Sarah ran to the car and threw herself into the back seat. She locked the doors and slid down low so no one could see her. The leather seat smelled expensive. The car was warm and quiet. For a moment, Sarah felt safe. She closed her eyes and tried to catch her breath. Her whole body was shaking. "Are you okay back there?" Sarah's eyes flew open. A man was sitting in the front seat, looking at her in the mirror. She hadn't seen him when she got in. He had dark hair and kind eyes, but Sarah was too scared to trust anyone. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to. I thought this was my friend's car. I'll get out right now." She reached for the door handle, but the man held up his hand. "Wait," he said softly. "You look scared. And sick. Are you running from someone?" Sarah looked out the back window. The 3 men were at the corner looking around. One of them was pointing at different cars. They hadn't seen her yet, but they were getting closer. "Yes," she whispered. "They've been following me. I don't know what they want, but I'm scared." The man looked where she was looking. He saw the 3 men too. Without saying another word, he put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. Sarah watched the men get smaller and smaller until they were gone. "Thank you," she said, but her voice was so quiet she wasn't sure he heard her. "I'm Marcus," the man said. "What's your name?" "Sarah." She was still shaking. "I'm really sorry about this. I was just so scared. I didn't know what else to do." Marcus looked at her in the mirror again. He could see she was sick. Her skin was pale and she was breathing hard. She looked like she needed help, not like someone who would hurt him. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe now. Where do you live? I'll take you home." Sarah thought about her tiny apartment. It was in a bad part of town. The men might know where she lived. They might be waiting for her there. I don't think I should go home," she said. "What if they're there?" Marcus drove in silence for a few minutes. He was thinking. Sarah seemed like a good person who was in trouble. He had a big house with good security. She would be safe there at least for tonight. "I have an idea," he said. "My house has a guest room. You can stay there tonight. In the morning we can figure out what to do about those men." Sarah didn't know what to say. She didn't know this man. But he had saved her and she had nowhere else to go. Her friend Lisa was out of town. Her family lived far away. She was alone. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to cause trouble." "You won't cause trouble," Marcus said. "And you need help. That's what matters." They drove through the city in comfortable silence. Sarah watched the buildings go by. She was still scared, but the fear was different now. Before, she was scared of the men chasing her. Now she was scared of trusting a stranger. But something about Marcus made her feel safe. The car was very nice. Sarah had never been in a car this expensive. The seats were soft leather and everything was clean and new. Marcus must have a good job, she thought. "What do you do for work?" she asked, trying to make conversation. "Business," Marcus said simply. "Nothing too exciting." "What about you?" "I work at a bookstore," Sarah said. "It's not much, but I like books." Marcus smiled. "Books are good. I like books too." Sarah felt herself relax a little. Maybe this would be okay. Maybe she had found help instead of more trouble. They drove into a part of town Sarah had never seen before. The houses were big and far apart. There were gates and long driveways. Sarah realized that Marcus must be very rich. "This is a nice area," she said. "It's quiet," Marcus replied. "Safe." He turned into a long driveway. Sarah couldn't see the house yet because of all the trees. When they finally reached the end of the drive, Sarah's mouth fell open. The house was huge. It looked like a castle from a movie. There were lights everywhere and a fountain in front. Sarah had never seen anything like it. "This is your house?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said, parking the car. "Come on. Let's get you inside and warm." Sarah got out of the car slowly. Her legs were still shaky from running and being sick. Marcus walked around to help her, but she tried to stand on her own. "I'm okay," she said, but then she almost fell. Marcus caught her arm gently. "Easy," he said. "You've had a hard night." They walked to the front door together. Sarah couldn't believe how big everything was. The door was twice as tall as she was. When Marcus opened it, she could see a beautiful entryway with a chandelier and marble floors. "Welcome to my home," Marcus said. Sarah stepped inside and looked around. Everything was perfect and expensive. She felt very small and out of place. "This is amazing," she said softly. "Thank you," Marcus said. "But it's just a house. The important thing is that you're safe now." He led her up a grand staircase to the second floor. There were paintings on the walls and thick carpets on the floors. Sarah felt like she was in a museum. "Here's the guest room," Marcus said, opening a door. "It has its own bathroom. There are clothes in the closet if you need them. My housekeeper keeps extra things for guests." The room was bigger than Sarah's entire apartment. There was a huge bed with soft pillows, a sitting area with a fireplace, and windows that looked out over the garden. "This is too much," Sarah said. "I can't stay here. I don't belong in a place like this." Marcus looked at her with kind eyes. "Sarah, you're sick and scared. You need rest and safety. This is just a room. It doesn't matter how fancy it is. What matters is that you can sleep without being afraid." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She was so tired, so confused. But Marcus was right. She needed rest. "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you. I'll just stay tonight." "Stay as long as you need," Marcus said. "I'll be downstairs if you need anything. There's a phone by the bed if you want to call anyone." After Marcus left, Sarah sat on the edge of the bed. She still couldn't believe what had happened. A few hours ago she was running for her life. Now she was in a mansion, safe and warm. She went to the window and looked out at the garden. It was beautiful even in the dark. There were lights in the trees and a small pond with a bridge. Sarah wondered who Marcus really was. He seemed kind, but she had learned not to trust people too quickly. Rich people especially. In her experience they always wanted something in return. But he had saved her. He had asked for nothing. He had given her safety when she needed it most. Sarah took a shower in the huge bathroom. The water was hot and felt good on her tired muscles. She found soft pajamas in the closet just like Marcus had said. They were too big but they were clean and comfortable. When she got into bed, Sarah sank into the softest mattress she had ever felt. The sheets smelled like lavender. For the first time in hours she felt truly safe. But as she closed her eyes, one question kept running through her mind. Who was Marcus really and why was he being so kind to a stranger? Outside, unknown to Sarah, Marcus was making phone calls. He was checking on security and making sure his staff knew to be extra careful. He was also trying to find out who those men were and why they had been chasing Sarah. Marcus had secrets of his own. Big secrets. And tomorrow, Sarah was going to start learning just how different her life was about to become. Sarah woke up confused. For a moment she didn't know where she was. The bed was too soft, the room too big. Then she remembered, the men chasing her, the car, Marcus. It all came flooding back. Sunlight was coming through the huge windows. Sarah had slept better than she had in weeks. The fever was gone and she felt stronger. She looked at the clock on the nightstand. It was almost 10 in the morning. "Oh no," she said out loud. "I'm supposed to be at work." She got out of bed and looked for her clothes from yesterday. They were dirty and wrinkled. She couldn't wear them to work. In the closet, she found a simple dress that was close to her size. It was nicer than anything she owned, but it would have to do. Sarah went to the bathroom to wash her face and fix her hair. In the mirror, she looked better than she had in days. The sleep had helped. Her dark skin had some color back and her eyes weren't as tired. She was about to leave the room when she heard a knock on the door. "Sarah?" It was Marcus. "Are you awake?" "Yes," she called. "I'm just getting ready to leave. Thank you so much for letting me stay. Before you go, would you like some breakfast? My cook made extra food." Sarah's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. "That sounds nice, but I really need to get to work. My boss will be angry if I'm late." "What time do you usually start work?" Marcus asked through the door. 9 o'clock. "But I can call and say I was sick. It's not really a lie." "Where do you work? I can drive you there." Sarah opened the door. Marcus was standing in the hallway, dressed in a nice suit. He looked different in the daylight, younger than she had thought, maybe in his early 30s. He was handsome but not in a scary way. He had kind eyes and a nice smile. "You don't have to drive me," Sarah said. "You've done enough already. I can take the bus." "It's no trouble," Marcus said. Besides, I want to make sure you get there safely. Those men from last night might still be looking for you. Sarah had forgotten about the men. In the safety of the mansion they had seemed like a bad dream. But Marcus was right. They might still be out there. Okay, she said. But first, can I ask you something? Of course. Who are you really? I mean, you have this huge house and expensive car. You're being so nice to me and I don't understand why. People don't usually help strangers like this. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be thinking about how to answer. I'm just someone who believes in helping people when they need it, he said finally. And you needed help last night. It wasn't really an answer, but Sarah didn't push. She was grateful for his help, even if she didn't understand it. They went downstairs together. The house was even more beautiful in the daylight. Sarah could see paintings and sculptures everywhere. Everything looked expensive and perfect. In the kitchen an older woman was cooking. She smiled when she saw Sarah. This is Mrs. Chen, Marcus said. She takes care of the house and makes the best food in the city. Nice to meet you, dear, Mrs. Chen said. You look much better this morning. Sit down and eat something. The kitchen was huge with a long table and chairs. Mrs. Chen put a plate in front of Sarah with eggs, toast, and fruit. It smelled amazing. This is too much, Sarah said. I usually just have coffee for breakfast. You need to eat, Mrs. Chen said firmly. You're too thin. Sarah ate slowly. The food was delicious, better than anything she had ever tasted. She could feel Marcus watching her, but he didn't say anything. He just drank his coffee and read something on his phone. This is really good, Sarah said. Thank you. You're welcome, Mrs. Chen said. There's plenty more if you want it. After breakfast, Marcus drove Sarah to the bookstore where she worked. It was in a busy part of town, very different from the quiet neighborhood where Marcus lived. This is it, Sarah said as they pulled up in front of the small shop. Thank you for the ride. And for everything else. Sarah, Marcus said before she got out of the car. I want you to have my phone number. Just in case you need help again. He handed her a business card. Sarah looked at it and gasped. It said Marcus Chen, CEO, Chen Industries in gold letters. Chen Industries? Sarah said. That's the big company that builds hotels and shopping centers. You're the CEO? Marcus nodded. Yes, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you're safe. Call me if you need anything, okay? Sarah got out of the car in a daze. Marcus Chen was one of the richest men in the city. She had seen his name in the newspaper. He owned buildings and companies all over the world. And she had spent the night in his house. The bookstore was small and crowded. Sarah's boss, Mr. Park, was waiting for her with a frown on his face. You're 3 hours late, he said. And you look different. Where have you been? I was sick, Sarah said. I'm sorry. I should have called. Mr. Park looked at her closely. You're wearing expensive clothes. And your hair is different. What's going on? Sarah looked down at the dress she had borrowed. It did look expensive. And she had used nice shampoo in Marcus's bathroom. She probably did look different. I stayed at a friend's house, she said. She let me borrow some clothes. Mr. Park didn't look convinced, but he didn't say anything else. He just pointed to a box of books that needed to be sorted. Sarah worked quietly all morning. She kept thinking about Marcus and his huge house and expensive car. She couldn't believe he was so rich and famous. And she couldn't believe he had been so kind to her. Around lunchtime, the bell above the door rang. Sarah looked up from the books she was sorting and saw a man in a suit. He looked around the store until he saw her. Are you Sarah? He asked. Yes, she said carefully. Can I help you? I'm from Chen Industries. Mr. Chen asked me to give you this. The man handed her a small package and left without saying anything else. Sarah stared at the package. It had her name written on it in neat handwriting. What was that about? Mr. Park asked. I don't know, Sarah said, but she was lying. She knew it was from Marcus. She waited until Mr. Park went to lunch before opening the package. Inside was a new phone and a note. Sarah, the note said. I thought you might need a phone in case those men come back. My number is programmed in. Please use it if you need help. There's also some money to help with your medical bills. Don't worry about paying me back. Take care of yourself. Marcus. At the bottom of the package was an envelope with money in it. Sarah counted it quickly. There was more money than she made in 3 months at the bookstore. Sarah sat down hard on a chair. This was too much. She barely knew Marcus and he was giving her expensive gifts and money. What did he want from her? But then she remembered how kind he had been. How safe she had felt in his house. Maybe he really was just a good person who wanted to help. The rest of the day went by slowly. Sarah kept looking at the phone Marcus had given her. It was the newest model, much nicer than the old phone she had broken last week. When her shift ended, Sarah walked to the bus stop. She was tired, and her illness was making her feel weak again. She wished she could call Marcus for a ride, but she didn't want to bother him. As she waited for the bus, Sarah noticed a car parked across the street. There were two men inside and they seemed to be watching her. Sarah's heart started beating faster. They looked like the men from last night. The bus came and Sarah got on quickly. She looked out the window as the bus pulled away. The car was following them. Sarah got off the bus 2 stops early and walked quickly down a side street. The car couldn't follow her there. She ducked into a coffee shop and waited for a few minutes before looking outside. The car was gone, but Sarah was scared. The men were still looking for her. She didn't know why, but they weren't going to give up. Sarah thought about Marcus's phone in her bag. Maybe she should call him. But what would she say? That she was scared? That she needed help again? She decided to go home and lock her door. Maybe the men would give up and leave her alone. But as Sarah walked to her apartment building, she didn't see the car that was parked in the shadows. And she didn't see the man taking pictures of her with a long camera lens. The men hadn't given up. They had just gotten better at hiding. And Marcus, sitting in his office in a tall building downtown, was about to get a phone call that would change everything. Marcus was in his office when his phone rang. The caller ID said private, which usually meant business he needed to handle personally. "Mr. Chin," a voice said. "We have a problem." Marcus sat up straight. The voice belonged to Jake, his head of security. Jake only called when something was seriously wrong. "What kind of problem?" Marcus asked. "It's about the girl, Sarah. The one you helped last night." Marcus's blood went cold. "What about her?" "She's being watched. 3 men have been following her all day. They're not just random criminals, Mr. Chin. They're professionals." Marcus stood up and walked to his window. The city looked peaceful from 40 floors up, but he knew it wasn't. There were dangerous people everywhere, and somehow Sarah had gotten caught up with them. "Do we know who they are?" Marcus asked. "We're working on it. But there's something else. We found out why they want her." Marcus waited. "Her father," Jake said. "He worked for Vincent Romano before he died. Sarah doesn't know, but her father stole something from Romano. Something valuable. Romano thinks Sarah has it." Marcus closed his eyes. Vincent Romano was one of the most dangerous men in the city. He ran illegal businesses and hurt people who got in his way. If Romano wanted something from Sarah, she was in serious trouble. "Does Sarah know about her father?" Marcus asked. "We don't think so. Her father died when she was young. She probably doesn't even remember him very well." Marcus thought about Sarah sleeping peacefully in his guest room. She had seemed so innocent, so fragile. She had no idea what kind of danger she was in. "Where is she now?" Marcus asked. "At home. But they're watching her building. It's only a matter of time before they make their move." Marcus made a decision. "Go get her. Bring her back here. Don't take no for an answer." "Are you sure? If Romano finds out you're protecting her, he might come after you too." Marcus had dealt with men like Romano before. He wasn't afraid of them. But he was afraid for Sarah. "I'm sure," Marcus said. "And Jake? Make sure she's okay. She's been sick." "Yes, sir." Marcus hung up the phone and stared out at the city. He had money and power and influence, but right now all he cared about was keeping Sarah safe. The truth was, Marcus hadn't been able to stop thinking about Sarah since he met her. There was something about her that made him want to protect her. Maybe it was the way she had looked so scared in his car. Or maybe it was the way she had thanked him for helping her, like she wasn't used to people being kind. Marcus had everything money could buy, but he was lonely. He had friends, but they only cared about his money. He dated women, but they only wanted to be seen with him because he was rich. Sarah was different. She hadn't known who he was, and she had still been grateful for his help. Now she was in danger because of something her father had done years ago. Marcus was going to make sure she stayed safe no matter what it cost him. Across town, Sarah was in her small apartment trying to make dinner. She had used some of the money Marcus gave her to buy groceries, but she felt guilty about it. She barely knew him and he was being so generous. The new phone Marcus had given her sat on her kitchen counter. She had been looking at it all evening, thinking about calling him to thank him again. But what would she say? She didn't want to sound stupid or desperate. Sarah was stirring soup on the stove when she heard a noise in the hallway. It sounded like someone was trying to be quiet. She turned off the stove and listened. There were voices outside her door. Men's voices. They were talking in whispers, but Sarah could hear them. "Are you sure this is the right apartment?" one man said. Yeah, this is it. She's in there. Sarah's heart started pounding. She grabbed Marcus's phone from the counter and quickly found his number. Hello? Marcus answered on the first ring. Marcus, Sarah whispered. I think they're here. The men from last night. They're outside my door. Stay calm, Marcus said. I'm sending help. Don't open the door for anyone except Jake. He's my head of security. He'll say his name and show you his ID. Okay, Sarah said, but her voice was shaking. Sarah, listen to me. Go to your bedroom and lock the door. Stay on the phone with me. Sarah crept to her bedroom as quietly as she could. She could still hear the men talking outside. Now they were arguing about something. I'm in my bedroom, Sarah whispered. Good. Help is coming. Just stay calm. Suddenly there was a loud bang on Sarah's front door. Open up, a man yelled. We know you're in there. Sarah dropped the phone and put her hands over her mouth to keep from screaming. The men banged on the door again. Sarah? Marcus's voice came from the phone. Sarah, are you there? Sarah picked up the phone with shaking hands. They're trying to break down the door, she whispered. Jake is in the building, Marcus said. He'll be there in 1 minute. The banging stopped. Sarah heard the men talking again, but she couldn't understand what they were saying. Then she heard footsteps in the hallway. A few seconds later there was a different knock on the door. This one was softer, more polite. Sarah? A voice called. My name is Jake. I work for Marcus Chin. I'm here to help you. Sarah looked through the peephole. A man in a suit was standing outside. He was holding up an ID card. Can you show me the ID closer? Sarah asked. The man held the card up to the peephole. Looked real. It had his picture and said, Jake Morrison, head of security, Chin Industries. Okay, Sarah said. She unlocked the door and opened it slowly. Jake was a big man with gray hair and kind eyes. He looked like someone who could protect her. Are you hurt? He asked. No, Sarah said. But I'm scared. Where did those men go? They're gone, Jake said. My team had a talk with them. But they'll be back. We need to get you somewhere safe. I don't understand, Sarah said. Why do they want me? I haven't done anything wrong. Jake looked sad. It's complicated. I'll explain on the way. Right now we need to go. Where are we going? Back to Mr. Chen's house. He wants to make sure you're safe. Sarah packed a small bag with clothes and the few things that mattered to her. She didn't have much, but it was her life. Now she was leaving it all behind because of men she didn't even know. On the way to Marcus's house, Jake told Sarah about her father. She listened in shock as he explained how her father had worked for Vincent Romano and had stolen something valuable before he died. My father wasn't a criminal, Sarah said. He was a good man. I'm sure he was, Jake said gently. But he got mixed up with the wrong people. Romano thinks you have whatever your father took. That's why those men are after you. But I don't have anything, Sarah said. My father died when I was 10. He didn't leave me anything except some old pictures. Jake looked at her in the rearview mirror. What kind of pictures? Just family photos. Me and my mom and dad. Nothing special. Jake made a mental note to tell Marcus about the pictures. Sometimes valuable things were hidden in plain sight. When they arrived at Marcus's house, he was waiting for them at the front door. He looked worried and relieved at the same time. Are you okay? He asked Sarah. I think so, Sarah said. But I don't understand what's happening. Jake told me about my father, but I don't have anything that belongs to Mr. Romano. Marcus took her hands. They were small and cold and they were shaking. We'll figure this out, he said. But right now you need to stay here where it's safe. Is that okay? Sarah nodded. She was too tired and scared to argue. And she was starting to trust Marcus, even though she didn't understand why he was helping her. I'll have Mrs. Chin make you some dinner, Marcus said. And then you should get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start looking for answers. As Sarah went upstairs to the guest room, Marcus and Jake stayed downstairs to talk. Did you find out anything else? Marcus asked. Romano's men are asking questions all over the city, Jake said. They're serious about finding whatever it is they think she has. What could it be? Money maybe. Or information. Something that could hurt Romano's business. Marcus thought about Sarah's father. What had he stolen that was so valuable Romano was still looking for it 15 years later? We need to find out what it is before Romano does, Marcus said. And we need to keep Sarah safe. This could get dangerous, Jake warned. Romano doesn't play nice. Marcus looked up the stairs toward Sarah's room. I don't care. She's under my protection now. But neither Marcus nor Jake knew that Romano had already found out where Sarah was staying, and he was making plans to get her back. The next morning was going to bring new dangers, and Sarah was going to learn that her quiet life was over forever. Sarah woke up early the next morning. She had slept badly, full of dreams about her father and the men chasing her. Everything Jake had told her about her father seemed impossible. Her father had been a quiet man who worked in an office. He wasn't a criminal. But as Sarah thought about it, she remembered things that had never made sense before. Like how her father had always been nervous. How he had moved them from city to city when she was little. How he had died so suddenly when she was 10. Her mother had never talked about her father's work. She had always said he worked in business, and changed the subject when Sarah asked questions. Sarah got dressed and went downstairs. Marcus was in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. He looked up when she came in. "Good morning," he said. "How did you sleep?" "Not very well," Sarah admitted. "I keep thinking about what Jake told me. About my father." Marcus put down his newspaper. "What do you remember about your father?" Sarah sat down at the table. Mrs. Chen brought her coffee without being asked. "Not much," Sarah said. "I was young when he died. I remember he was always worried about something. He used to check the locks on the doors at night. And we moved a lot when I was little." "Did he ever give you anything? A gift or something to keep?" "Just some old pictures. My mom gave them to me after she died last year. They're in my apartment." Marcus looked interested. "What kind of pictures?" "Family photos. Me and my parents. Some pictures of my father when he was younger. Nothing special." Marcus made a decision. "We need to get those pictures. They might help us understand what Romano is looking for." "But it's dangerous to go back to my apartment," Sarah said. "We'll be careful," Marcus said. "Jake will come with us, and we'll have backup." An hour later, they were driving through the city in Marcus's car. Jake was in the front seat, and 2 other security men were following them in another car. Sarah felt strange going back to her old life. Her apartment building looked small and shabby compared to Marcus's mansion. She had lived there for 2 years, but now it felt like a different world. "Wait here," Jake said when they reached the building. "I'll check to make sure it's safe." Jake went inside with one of the other security men. They came back a few minutes later. "It's clear," Jake said. "But someone was in there. The apartment has been searched." Sarah's heart sank. "Did they take anything?" "We'll have to see." They went upstairs to Sarah's apartment. The door was still locked, but when they went inside, Sarah could see that everything had been moved. Her furniture was in different places. Her books were scattered on the floor. Her clothes were thrown around the bedroom. "They were looking for something," Marcus said. Sarah went to her bedroom closet. In the back, behind her winter coats, was a small box. Her hands were shaking as she opened it. "Thank God," she whispered. They didn't find it. Inside the box were the pictures her mother had given her. There were about 20 photos, all of them old and faded. Sarah looked through them quickly. "These are just family pictures," she said. "I don't see anything valuable." Marcus took the pictures and looked at them carefully. Most of them were normal family photos. Sarah as a baby, her parents at Christmas, her father at work. But one picture caught Marcus's eye. It was a photo of Sarah's father with a group of men. They were standing in front of a warehouse. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "The Team, 1995. "Do you know who these men are?" Marcus asked, showing Sarah the picture. Sarah looked at it. "No. I've never seen them before. But that's definitely my father." Marcus studied the photo. One of the men looked familiar, but he couldn't place him. He decided to have Jake research it. "We should go," Jake said. "We've been here too long." They left the apartment and drove back to Marcus's house. Sarah felt sad leaving her old life behind, but she knew she couldn't go back. Not until they figured out what Romano wanted. Back at the mansion, Marcus called Jake into his office. They spread the photos out on his desk and looked at them carefully. "This one," Marcus said, pointing to the group photo. "I want you to find out who these men are." Jake took the photo. "I'll get our research team on it right away." "And Jake? Be careful. If Romano finds out we have these pictures, he might try harder to get to Sarah." Jake nodded and left. Marcus sat alone in his office, thinking about Sarah. She was downstairs, probably feeling lost and scared. Her whole life had been turned upside down in just 2 days. Marcus had been in difficult situations before. He had built his business by taking risks and making tough decisions. But this was different. This wasn't about money or business. This was about protecting someone he cared about. The truth was, Marcus was falling in love with Sarah. He had been attracted to her from the moment he saw her in his car, scared and vulnerable. But as he got to know her, he realized she was special. She was kind and brave and real in a way that most people weren't. But Sarah didn't know how he felt. She probably thought he was just being nice to her because she needed help. Marcus didn't want to tell her how he felt while she was in danger. It wouldn't be fair to her. That afternoon, Jake came back with information about the photo. "I found them," he said. "The men in the picture. They all worked for Romano in the 1990s. Most of them are dead now." Marcus looked at the list Jake had made. What happened to them? Different things. Car accidents. Overdoses. One of them disappeared. Romano doesn't like loose ends. What about Sarah's father? According to our sources, he was Romano's accountant. He knew where all the money was hidden. When he died, a lot of people thought he had taken information with him. Marcus understood now. Financial records. Bank account numbers. That's what Romano is looking for. It makes sense, Jake said. Your father could have hidden information that could destroy Romano's business. Or information about where money is hidden. But Sarah doesn't have it, Marcus said. Are you sure? Maybe her father hid it somewhere she doesn't know about. Marcus thought about the pictures. If Sarah's father had hidden information, he might have put clues in the family photos. It was the kind of thing a smart man would do, hide important information in plain sight. I need to talk to Sarah, Marcus said. He found Sarah in the library reading a book. She looked up when he came in. Hi, she said softly. This is a beautiful library. You have so many books. Marcus sat down across from her. Sarah, we need to talk about your father. Jake found out more information. Sarah closed the book and gave him her full attention. Marcus told her what Jake had discovered, that her father had been Romano's accountant and might have taken financial information when he left. I still don't understand, Sarah said. If my father had information like that, where would it be? He didn't leave me anything except those pictures. Marcus pulled out the group photo and showed it to her again. Look at this picture carefully. Is there anything unusual about it? Anything written on it or hidden in it? Sarah took the photo and studied it. She had looked at it many times before, but now she was looking for something different. Wait, she said suddenly. There's something here. She pointed to the back of the photo. Marcus had seen the writing, the team 1995, but Sarah was pointing to something else. In the bottom corner, in very faint pencil, were numbers. I never noticed this before, Sarah said. It looks like coordinates? Or maybe account numbers. Marcus looked closer. The numbers were so faint they were almost invisible. Sarah's father had been very careful to hide them. We need to check all the photos, Marcus said. If there are numbers on this one, there might be more on the others. They spent the next hour going through every photo with a magnifying glass. On 7 of the pictures they found faint numbers written in pencil. Always in corners or on the backs. Always very light so they wouldn't be noticed unless someone was looking carefully. My father was very smart, Sarah said. He hid the information where no one would think to look. Marcus felt a mix of excitement and worry. They had found what Romano was looking for, but that also meant Sarah was in more danger than ever. What do we do now? Sarah asked. We figure out what these numbers mean, Marcus said. And we keep you safe while we do it. But even as Marcus said it, he knew their problems were just beginning. Romano was getting desperate, and desperate men did dangerous things. Outside, hidden in the trees around Marcus's property, men with binoculars were watching the house. They had been there since morning, waiting for the right moment to make their move. Romano had decided he was tired of waiting. If Marcus Chin wanted to protect Sarah, he would have to face the consequences. The war for Sarah's safety was about to begin. The numbers on the photographs kept Marcus and Sarah busy for hours. They had written them all down and were trying to figure out what they meant. Some looked like account numbers. Others might be coordinates. A few could be dates. Your father was very clever, Marcus said. He spread the information across multiple photos so no one could get it all from just one picture. Sarah felt proud and sad at the same time. She was proud that her father had been so smart, but sad that she had never really known him. I wish he had told me, she said. I could have helped him. He was protecting you, Marcus said gently. If you didn't know about it, you couldn't get hurt because of it. But Sarah had gotten hurt anyway. Her whole life was in danger because of something her father had done years ago. While they worked, Jake came into the room with a worried expression. We have a problem, he said. Romano's men are outside. Marcus stood up quickly. How many? 6 that we can see. Probably more we can't see. Marcus looked at Sarah. She had gone pale and her hands were shaking. What do they want? Sarah asked. You, Jake said simply. They're not trying to hide anymore. They want us to know they're there. Marcus walked to the window and looked out. He could see men in dark clothes positioned around his property. They weren't trying to break in. They were just waiting. They're trying to scare us, Marcus said. Romano wants us to know he can get to us whenever he wants. Is it working? Sarah asked quietly. Marcus looked at her. She was trying to be brave, but he could see she was terrified. No, he said firmly. We're not giving up. And we're not giving you to him. Jake cleared his throat. Sir, we need to talk about options. My team is good, but Romano has more men. If he decides to attack the house, then we don't wait for him to attack, Marcus said. We take the fight to him. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Marcus had been thinking about this all day. Romano wanted the information Sarah's father had hidden. If they could give him something he wanted more, maybe they could make a deal. We're going to offer Romano a trade, Marcus said. A trade? Jake looked worried. What kind of trade? Information for Sarah's safety. We'll give him some of what he wants, but not all of it. And we'll make sure he can't hurt Sarah again. Sarah stood up. No. I won't let you put yourself in danger for me. You've already done too much. Marcus took her hands. Sarah, listen to me. This isn't just about helping you anymore. This is about doing what's right. Romano has been hurting people for years. If we can stop him, we have to try. But what if he tries to hurt you? Marcus smiled. It was the first time Sarah had seemed worried about him instead of just grateful for his help. I can take care of myself, he said. I didn't get where I am by backing down from bullies. Jake was still worried. What exactly are you planning? We're going to meet with Romano. In a public place where he can't try anything. We'll give him some of the account numbers, enough to show we have what he wants. Then we'll negotiate. And if he doesn't want to negotiate? Marcus's expression hardened. Then we'll have to try something else. That evening Marcus made the call. He had contacts who could reach Romano safely. The meeting was set for the next day at noon in a busy restaurant downtown. Sarah didn't sleep well that night. She kept thinking about all the ways the meeting could go wrong. What if Romano tried to hurt Marcus? What if he didn't believe they really had the information? What if he demanded all of it instead of just some? In the morning, Marcus found Sarah in the kitchen early, drinking coffee and looking worried. You don't have to come today, he said. Jake and I can handle the meeting. No, Sarah said firmly. This is about me and my father. I should be there. Marcus didn't want to put Sarah in danger, but he understood. She needed to face this herself. Okay, he said. But you stay close to me, and if anything goes wrong, you do exactly what Jake tells you. The restaurant Marcus had chosen was perfect for their needs. It was busy and public with lots of exits. Romano wouldn't try anything violent there, too many witnesses. They arrived early and took a table near the back where they could see the whole restaurant. Jake sat at another table nearby, pretending to read a newspaper but actually watching for trouble. At exactly noon, Vincent Romano walked in. He was a small man in an expensive suit, but Sarah could tell immediately that he was dangerous. He moved like a predator and his eyes were cold and calculating. Two large men followed him to the table. Romano sat down across from Marcus and Sarah. He didn't smile or shake hands. Mr. Chin, Romano said. His voice was quiet but threatening. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Mr. Romano, Marcus replied calmly. I think we can help each other. Romano looked at Sarah. You've grown up, little Sarah. You look just like your father. Sarah felt cold when he looked at her, but she forced herself to speak. What did my father take from you? Romano smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Your father was supposed to be loyal to me. Instead, he stole information about my business. Financial records that could cause me problems. What kind of problems? Marcus asked. The kind that involve police and prison, Romano said bluntly. Your father knew where I kept my money. He knew about my business dealings. When he died, that information disappeared. And you think Sarah has it? I know she has it. My men searched her apartment, but they didn't find anything, which means it's hidden somewhere clever. Her father was a smart man. Marcus reached into his jacket slowly. Romano's men tensed, but Marcus just pulled out a piece of paper. We found some of it, Marcus said, sliding the paper across the table. Romney looked at the paper. On it were 3 of the account numbers from the photos. His eyes widened slightly. Where did you find this? He asked. That's not important, Marcus said. What's important is that we have more. A lot more. How much more? Enough to cause you serious problems if it gets to the wrong people. Romano leaned back in his chair. What do you want? Sarah's safety. You leave her alone forever. No more men following her. No more threats. She gets to live her life in peace. And in return? We give you half the information. Enough for you to protect yourself, but not enough for you to expand your operations. Romano was quiet for a long moment. Sarah could see him thinking, weighing his options. Half isn't enough, he said finally. It's all you're getting, Marcus said firmly. Take it or leave it. Romano's expression darkened. You're in no position to make demands, Mr. Chin. I have men surrounding this restaurant. I could take the girl right now. You could try, Marcus said calmly. But then you'd never get the information. And you'd have the police, the FBI, and some very dangerous people looking for you. It was a bluff, but Romano couldn't be sure. Marcus Chin was a powerful man with powerful friends. You have 1 week, Romano said, standing up. Bring me all the information or the girl dies. And anyone who tries to protect her dies too. He left without another word, his men following him. Sarah was shaking. He's not going to negotiate. He wants everything. Marcus took her hand. Then we're going to have to find another way to stop him. What other way? Marcus looked at Jake, who had moved to their table as soon as Romano left. We're going to give the information to the FBI, Marcus said. All of it. Let them deal with Romano. But as they left the restaurant, none of them saw the man with the camera who had been taking pictures of their meeting. Romano was already planning his next move. And Sarah was about to learn that sometimes the only way to end a war is to fight back. The FBI office was busy and loud. Sarah sat in a small room with Marcus and Jake, waiting to talk to an agent. She was nervous about telling the government about her father, but Marcus had convinced her it was the right thing to do. Agent Lisa Park came into the room carrying a thick file. She was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and serious eyes. Mr. Chin, she said, shaking Marcus's hand. Thank you for coming in. We've been trying to build a case against Vincent Romano for years. We might be able to help, Marcus said. Agent Park looked at Sarah. You're Sarah Williams. Your father was David Williams. Yes, Sarah said quietly. But I didn't know about his connection to Romano until a few days ago. What exactly do you know? Marcus and Sarah told Agent Park everything. About the men chasing Sarah, about the photographs, about the hidden numbers. They showed her copies of all the information they had found. Agent Park studied the numbers carefully. These are definitely financial records. Bank accounts, investment accounts, offshore holdings. With this information, we could trace most of Romano's money. Is it enough to arrest him? Sarah asked. It's a good start. But we'll need more evidence to make the charges stick. Financial crimes are complicated. What about the fact that he's been threatening Sarah? Marcus asked. That's harder to prove. He's been careful not to threaten her directly where we can record it. Sarah felt disappointed. She had hoped the FBI could just arrest Romano and end her problems. There is another option, Agent Park said slowly. But it would be dangerous. What kind of option? Marcus asked. We could set up a sting operation. Get Romano to incriminate himself on tape. But we would need Sarah's help. Absolutely not, Marcus said immediately. It's too dangerous. I'll do it, Sarah said quietly. Both Marcus and Agent Park looked at her in surprise. Sarah, no, Marcus said. You don't understand how dangerous Romano is. Yes, I do, Sarah said. He's been chasing me for days. He threatened to kill me and anyone who helps me. I'm tired of running. I want my life back. Agent Park looked impressed. It would involve wearing a wire and meeting with Romano. Getting him to admit to his crimes on tape. I said I'll do it. Marcus took Sarah's hands. Please think about this. If something goes wrong. Something could go wrong anyway, Sarah said. At least this way we're fighting back. Marcus could see that Sarah had made up her mind. He was proud of her courage, but he was also terrified of losing her. If she does this, Marcus said to Agent Park, I want your best people protecting her. And I want to be there. That might not be possible. Then she doesn't do it, Marcus said firmly. Agent Park thought for a moment. We might be able to work something out. Give us a few days to set things up. They left the FBI office with a plan. Sarah would meet Romano in 3 days and try to get him to confess his crimes on tape. It was dangerous, but it was their best chance to stop him permanently. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong. What if Romano found the wire? What if he hurt Sarah before the FBI could stop him? What if Marcus lost the most important person in his life? He got up and went to check on Sarah. Her room was dark, but he could see she was awake. "Can't sleep either?" he asked softly. "No," Sarah said. "I keep thinking about my father. I wonder if he knew this day would come." Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. "He would be proud of you. You're braver than he probably ever imagined." "I don't feel brave. I feel scared." "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared." Sarah looked at Marcus in the dim light from the hallway. He had been so kind to her, so protective. She was starting to have feelings for him that went beyond gratitude. "Marcus," she said softly, "why are you helping me?" "Really?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. He had been wanting to tell Sarah how he felt, but he hadn't wanted to complicate things while she was in danger. "Because I care about you," he said finally. "More than I should probably." "What do you mean?" Marcus took a deep breath. "I mean I'm falling in love with you, Sarah. I have been since the night you got into my car." Sarah's heart started beating faster. "You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're kind and brave and real. I know you make me want to be a better person. And I know I can't imagine my life without you." Sarah sat up and looked into Marcus's eyes. "I care about you too. But I'm scared. Not just of Romano but of this. Of us. We're from different worlds." "None of that matters," Marcus said. "What matters is how we feel about each other." Sarah leaned forward and kissed him softly. It was gentle and sweet, full of all the feelings they had been holding back. "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. Marcus held her close, and for a few minutes they forgot about Romano and danger and everything else. They just held each other and felt safe. But outside, men were watching the house. Romano had decided he was tired of waiting. Tomorrow he was going to take Sarah whether she cooperated or not. The next morning, Jake woke Marcus early. "We have a problem," he said. "Romano's men tried to break into the house last night. Our security stopped them, but they'll try again." Marcus got dressed quickly. "How many men?" "More than before. At least 10. And they had professional equipment." Marcus found Sarah in the kitchen, looking pale and worried. "I heard voices," she said. "What happened?" Marcus told her about the break-in attempt. Sarah listened with growing fear. "He's not going to wait for the FBI meeting," she said. "He's going to try to take me now." "Not if I can help it," Marcus said. "Jake, I want you to move Sarah to the safe house." "What safe house?" Sarah asked. "I have a property outside the city," Marcus explained. "It's completely secure. You'll be safe there until the FBI operation." "What about you?" "I'm staying here. If Romano wants a fight, I'll give him one." "No," Sarah said firmly. "I'm not leaving you here alone." "Sarah, you have to. It's the only way to keep you safe." "And what happens if Romano hurts you while I'm hiding?" "I couldn't live with that." Marcus could see that Sarah was just as stubborn as he was. And he loved her for it. "Okay," he said. "We'll both go to the safe house. But we leave now." They packed quickly and left through the back of the property, using a route Jake had planned for emergencies. But as they drove away, Sarah looked back at the mansion. "Will we ever be able to come back?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said, taking her hand. "When this is over, we'll come back and start our life together." But both of them wondered if they would live long enough to see that day. Romano was running out of patience, and desperate men did desperate things. The final confrontation was coming, and Sarah was going to have to be stronger than she had ever been before. The safe house was an hour outside the city, hidden in the woods at the end of a long dirt road. It looked like a normal cabin from the outside, but Marcus explained that it had been built to withstand attacks. "Bulletproof windows, reinforced walls, and enough supplies to last a month," he said as they walked inside. The cabin was comfortable but simple. There was a living room with a fireplace, a small kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a basement that Jake said was full of emergency equipment. "How long do we have to stay here?" Sarah asked. "Until the FBI is ready for the operation," Marcus said. "A few days at most." Jake was setting up security monitors and checking the communication equipment. "The property is completely surrounded by motion sensors," he told them. "If anyone comes within a mile of here, we'll know." That first day at the cabin felt strange to Sarah. After all the danger and excitement, it was quiet and peaceful. She and Marcus walked around the property together, holding hands and talking about their future. "When this is over," Marcus said, "what do you want to do?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "I never thought past just staying alive." "What about you?" "I want to marry you," Marcus said simply. Sarah stopped walking and looked at him. "We've only known each other for a week." I know. But I also know I've never felt this way about anyone before. I don't want to waste time pretending I don't love you. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. Are you asking me to marry you? Marcus got down on one knee right there in the woods. Sarah Williams, will you marry me? Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. Marcus stood up and kissed her, spinning her around in his arms. For a moment, all their problems seemed far away. But that evening Jake got a phone call that changed everything. That was Agent Park, he told Marcus and Sarah. Romano knows about the safe house. Marcus felt his blood go cold. How is that possible? Someone tipped him off. There's a leak in the FBI. What do we do? Sarah asked. Jake was already packing equipment. We leave. Now. They gathered their things quickly and got back in the car. But as they drove down the dirt road, they saw headlights coming toward them. 3 cars, Jake said grimly. We're trapped. Marcus looked around quickly. The road was narrow with thick woods on both sides. There was nowhere to turn around. There, Sarah said, pointing to a gap in the trees. That looks like a hiking trail. Jake turned the car toward the trail. It was barely wide enough for the car, and branches scraped against the windows as they drove through. Behind them they could hear the other cars stopping. Men were shouting and running into the woods after them. The trail ends at a lake, Jake said, looking at a map. There's a dock with boats. Can we cross the lake? Marcus asked. It's our best option. They reached the lake just as the sun was setting. There were 2 small boats tied to the dock. Jake quickly got one of them started while Marcus helped Sarah climb in. They're almost here, Sarah said. She could see flashlights moving through the trees. Jake gunned the boat's engine and they sped across the lake. Behind them, Sarah could see Romano's men reaching the dock. A few of them got in the other boat and started following. They're gaining on us, Marcus said. Jake was pushing the boat as fast as it would go, but the other boat was newer and faster. Halfway across the lake, it was clear they wouldn't make it to the other side first. There, Jake pointed to a small island in the middle of the lake. We can make a stand there. They reached the island just before Romano's men caught up. Jake had brought some of his security equipment, including weapons and communication gear. Call the FBI, Marcus told Jake. Tell them where we are. Already did, Jake said. But it'll take them at least an hour to get here. The island was small, maybe 50 yards across, covered with trees and rocks. Jake positioned them behind a large boulder where they could see the water on all sides. How many men? Marcus asked. 4 in the boat that followed us. But Romano will send more. They could hear the boat approaching. Sarah was scared, but she was also angry. She was tired of running and hiding. She was tired of being a victim. I want to end this, she said. We will, Marcus promised. One way or another. The boat reached the island and 4 men got out. They were armed and spread out, trying to surround Marcus, Sarah, and Jake. We know you're here, one of them called out. Mr. Romano just wants to talk to the girl. Nobody has to get hurt. Tell Romano he can talk to the FBI, Jake called back. That's not going to happen. For the next half hour it was a standoff. Romano's men tried to get closer, but Jake was a good shot and kept them at bay. But Sarah knew they couldn't hold out forever. That's when they heard more boats coming across the lake. Reinforcements? Marcus asked. Jake looked through binoculars. No. It's the FBI. Agent Park's voice came over a loudspeaker from one of the boats. This is the FBI. You're surrounded. Put down your weapons and surrender. The gunfight was brief. Romano's men were outnumbered and outgunned. Within minutes it was over. Agent Park waded ashore and found Marcus, Sarah, and Jake behind their boulder. Is everyone okay? She asked. We're fine, Marcus said. But Romano's still out there. Not for long, Agent Park said. We arrested him an hour ago. These were the last of his men. Sarah couldn't believe it. It's over? It's over, Agent Park confirmed. We found enough evidence at his headquarters to put him away for life. You don't have to worry about him anymore. Sarah felt like a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in a week she felt truly safe. What happens now? She asked. Now you get your life back, Agent Park said. Both of you. As they rowed back to shore in the FBI boat, Sarah leaned against Marcus and watched the stars come out. The nightmare was finally over. So, Marcus said softly. About that proposal. Sarah smiled and kissed him. I said yes, didn't I? You did. But I don't have a ring yet. We have time, Sarah said. We have all the time in the world. But even as they planned their future, Both Sarah and Marcus knew their story was far from over. There would be new challenges and new adventures ahead. They just didn't know how soon those adventures would begin. 3 months later, Sarah stood in front of the mirror in Marcus's bedroom, adjusting her wedding dress. It was simple and elegant, not too fancy but beautiful enough for the most important day of her life. Mrs. Chin knocked on the door. "Are you ready, dear?" "I think so," Sarah said, but her hands were shaking as she tried to fix her hair. Mrs. Chin came over and gently took the hairbrush from Sarah's hands. "Let me help you," she said kindly. "You're nervous." "Very nervous," Sarah admitted. "What if I'm making a mistake? What if Marcus realizes I don't belong in his world?" Mrs. Chin finished with Sarah's hair and turned her around to face the mirror. "Look at yourself," she said. "What do you see?" Sarah looked. She saw a woman in a beautiful dress, but she also saw the scared girl who had jumped into a stranger's car just a few months ago. "I see someone who doesn't know what she's doing," Sarah said honestly. "I see someone who has been through terrible things and came out stronger," Mrs. Chin said. "I see someone who makes my son happier than I've ever seen him. And I see someone who belongs in this family." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Now come on," Mrs. Chin said. "You have a wedding to get to." The wedding was small, held in the garden behind Marcus's house. Only close friends and family were there. Sarah didn't have many people to invite, just a few friends from the bookstore and a cousin who lived across the country. But Marcus's side was full of people who had welcomed Sarah like she was already family. Jake was Marcus's best man, and he winked at Sarah as she walked down the aisle. Agent Park was there too, sitting in the back with a smile on her face. But Sarah only had eyes for Marcus. He was standing at the altar in a black suit, looking more handsome than she had ever seen him. When he saw her walking toward him, his face lit up with joy. "You look beautiful," he whispered when she reached him. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Sarah whispered back, making him laugh. The ceremony was short and sweet. They had written their own vows, and when it was Sarah's turn to speak, she felt her voice shake with emotion. "Marcus," she said, "you saved my life in more ways than one. You didn't just protect me from danger, you showed me what love really looks like. You showed me that I was worth saving. I promise to love you and stand by you for the rest of my life." Marcus's vows were just as emotional. "Sarah, you changed my life the moment you got into my car. You showed me what it means to be truly brave. You taught me that the best things in life aren't things at all, they're the people we love. I promise to protect you and cherish you for as long as I live." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed Sarah like it was the first time and the last time all at once. The small crowd cheered, and Sarah felt happier than she had ever thought possible. The reception was held right there in the garden. There was dancing and cake and toast that made everyone laugh and cry. Sarah danced with Marcus as the sun set behind them, and she felt like she was living in a fairy tale. But the best part came later when they were alone in their room. Marcus had a surprise for Sarah. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small wrapped box. "We already did gifts," Sarah said. "That watch you gave me is the most beautiful thing I've ever owned." "This is different," Marcus said. "Open it." Inside the box was a key. It was old and tarnished, but it had been polished until it gleamed. "What's it for?" Sarah asked. "The bookstore," Marcus said. "I bought it for you. It's yours now." Sarah stared at the key. "You bought Mr. Park's bookstore?" "He was ready to retire anyway. I just helped him make the decision. Now you can run it however you want. You can keep working with books, but as the owner instead of an employee." Sarah threw her arms around Marcus and kissed him. "I can't believe you did this for me." "I want you to be happy," Marcus said. "And I know how much you love books." "I love you more," Sarah said. That night, as they lay in bed as husband and wife, Sarah thought about how much her life had changed. A few months ago she had been alone and scared, working at a job that barely paid her bills, sick and struggling to get by. Now she was married to a wonderful man who loved her, she owned her own business, and she felt healthier than she had in years. The stress of constantly worrying about money and safety was gone. "Are you happy?" Marcus asked as if he could read her thoughts. "Happier than I ever imagined I could be," Sarah said. "But also a little scared." "Scared of what?" "That I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. That someone like you couldn't really love someone like me." Marcus pulled her closer. "Sarah, you need to understand something. I'm not better than you because I have money. Money doesn't make a person worthy of love. You are kind and brave and strong and smart. Those are the things that matter. Those are the reasons I love you." "I'm still learning to believe that," Sarah admitted. Then I'll spend the rest of our lives showing you, Marcus promised. The next morning they left for their honeymoon. Marcus had wanted to take Sarah somewhere exotic and expensive, but she had asked to go somewhere simple and quiet. They ended up at a small cabin by a lake, not too different from the safe house where they had hidden from Romano. But this time they weren't running from danger. They were running toward their future together. They spent a week at the lake, talking and laughing and planning their life together. Sarah told Marcus about her dreams for the bookstore, how she wanted to make it a place where people felt welcome, where children could come for story time, where book clubs could meet. Marcus told Sarah about his business plans, how he wanted to focus more on projects that helped people, like affordable housing and community centers. We could work together sometimes, Sarah suggested. Maybe the bookstore could partner with your community centers. We could set up little libraries in them. I love that idea, Marcus said. We make a good team. On their last night at the lake, they sat by the fire and talked about the future. Do you want children? Marcus asked. Yes, Sarah said without hesitation. Do you? I want everything with you, Marcus said. Children, adventures, quiet nights at home, growing old together. I want it all. Even when I'm old and gray and cranky? Especially then, Marcus said, making her laugh. As they drove home from their honeymoon, Sarah felt excited about starting their new life together. She had the bookstore to run and Marcus had his business. They would both be busy, but they would be busy together. When they pulled into the driveway of their home, Sarah still felt a little thrill at calling it their home instead of Marcus's home. Ready to start our life, Mrs. Chin? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled at her new name. Ready, Mr. Chin. But as they walked into the house, hand in hand, neither of them knew that their biggest adventure was still ahead of them. Life had a way of surprising people, even when they thought they had everything figured out. And Sarah and Marcus were about to learn that love was just the beginning of their story, not the end. 6 months after their wedding, Sarah was in the bookstore early, preparing for the morning rush. She had changed a lot about the store since taking over. There were comfortable chairs and sofas where people could sit and read. She had added a coffee corner and a children's section with bright colors and soft carpet. The store was doing better than it ever had under Mr. Park. Sarah had a gift for knowing what books people would love, and she had created a warm, welcoming atmosphere that made customers want to stay and browse. Good morning, boss, said Jenny, the young woman Sarah had hired to help part-time. Good morning, Sarah replied, but she was distracted. She had been feeling tired and a little sick for the past few weeks. She had been too busy to see a doctor, but she was starting to worry. The morning rush was busy as usual. Sarah loved talking to customers about books, making recommendations, and seeing the joy on children's faces when they found a story they loved. Around noon, Marcus stopped by with lunch for both of them. This had become their routine. He would visit the store every day, and they would eat together in the small office behind the counter. You look tired, Marcus said, studying Sarah's face. I haven't been sleeping well, Sarah said. And I've been feeling a little sick in the mornings. Marcus looked worried. Sick how? Just queasy. And tired all the time. It's probably just stress from running the business. Marcus didn't look convinced. When was the last time you saw a doctor? I don't know. Before we got married, I think. Sarah, I want you to see a doctor. Today. I'm fine, Sarah protested. It's probably just a bug or something. But Marcus insisted, and by the end of the day, Sarah found herself sitting in a doctor's office, waiting for test results. Dr. Martinez came back into the room with a smile on her face. Well, Mrs. Chen, I have good news. You're not sick. I'm not. Sarah felt relieved. You're pregnant. Sarah felt the world stop. What? About 8 weeks along, I'd say. That explains the nausea and fatigue. Congratulations. Sarah stared at the doctor in shock. Pregnant? She and Marcus had talked about having children, but they had planned to wait a year or two. Are you okay? Dr. Martinez asked gently. Yes. I'm just surprised. We weren't trying. It happens, the doctor said with a kind smile. Your husband is in the waiting room. Would you like me to tell him, or do you want to? I'll tell him, Sarah said quickly. When Sarah came out of the doctor's office, Marcus jumped up from his chair. What did she say? Are you okay? Sarah looked at her husband, this good, kind man who had saved her life and given her everything she had ever dreamed of. Now she was about to give him something wonderful too. I'm fine, she said. But Marcus, we're going to have a baby? Marcus's face went through several emotions at once. Surprise, joy, worry, and then pure happiness. He picked Sarah up and spun her around right there in the doctor's waiting room. Are you serious? He asked, setting her down gently. Very serious. 8 weeks. Marcus kissed her and then put his hands on her still flat stomach. A baby? He whispered in wonder. That night they called Mrs. Chen and Jake to share the news. Mrs. Chen cried with joy and immediately started planning how to turn one of the guest rooms into a nursery. Jake congratulated them and joked that he would teach the baby how to be tough. I can't believe it, Sarah said as they lay in bed that night. A year ago I was alone and scared. Now I'm married to you and we're having a baby. Life has a way of surprising us, Marcus agreed. Are you happy about it? Terrified and thrilled at the same time, Sarah admitted. What about you? Same. I keep thinking about all the things I want to teach our child. How to be kind, how to be brave, how to stand up for what's right. Boy or girl? Sarah asked. I don't care as long as the baby is healthy. But I have to admit, I keep picturing a little girl who looks just like you. And I keep thinking about a little boy with your eyes, Sarah said. They talked late into the night about names and cribs and whether they would need a bigger house. The mansion was certainly big enough for a family, but Sarah worried about raising a child in such a fancy place. I want our baby to grow up normal, she said. Not spoiled or entitled. We'll make sure of that, Marcus promised. Money doesn't have to ruin a child if the parents are careful. Over the next few months, Sarah's pregnancy progressed smoothly. She continued to run the bookstore, though Marcus insisted she hire more help so she wouldn't get too tired. The nursery came together beautifully. They painted it soft yellow since they decided to wait to find out the baby's gender. Marcus insisted on the best of everything, the safest crib, the softest blankets, more toys than any baby could ever need. You're going to spoil this child before it's even born, Sarah laughed as Marcus brought home another bag of baby clothes. I want our baby to have everything, Marcus said. Everything I didn't have, everything you didn't have. Sarah understood. Marcus had grown up wealthy but lonely, with parents who were too busy to spend much time with him. Sarah had grown up poor but loved, until her parents died and left her alone. They both wanted to give their child the best of both worlds, security and love. When Sarah was 7 months pregnant, they had their first real argument as a married couple. It was about the birth. I want to have the baby at City General, Sarah said. That's where I was born. But the private hospital has the best doctors, Marcus argued. The best facilities. City General is a good hospital too. And it's where normal people go. Sarah, this isn't about normal or not normal. This is about our baby's safety. Are you saying I don't care about our baby's safety? They went back and forth for an hour before finally compromising. They would tour both hospitals and choose the one where Sarah felt most comfortable. In the end, Sarah chose the private hospital. Not because it was fancier but because the doctor there made her feel calm and confident. Marcus was right, when it came to their baby, nothing was more important than safety. The baby shower was held at the bookstore. Sarah had invited friends from her new life and her old life. It was wonderful to see all the different parts of her world coming together. Mrs. Chen had made a beautiful cake, and Marcus's business friends mingled with Sarah's book club members and the ladies from the church she had started attending. Look how happy she is, Agent Park said to Marcus. She had become a good friend to both of them over the months. She deserves it, Marcus replied, watching Sarah laugh with a group of customers from the bookstore. You both do. You've built something beautiful together. As Sarah opened gifts and thanked her friends, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A year and a half ago she had been running for her life. Now she was surrounded by people who cared about her and her baby. Thank you all for being here, Sarah said when it was time to give a speech. This baby is already so loved, and that's because of all of you. That night, as Marcus helped Sarah put away all the baby gifts, she felt a strong kick from inside her belly. I think the baby liked the party, she said, putting Marcus's hand on her stomach so he could feel. Maybe the baby is excited to meet everyone, Marcus said. 2 more months, Sarah said. Are you ready to be a dad? I've been ready since the day I met you, Marcus said. What about you? Ready to be a mom? Sarah thought about it. She was scared, of course. Scared of the pain of childbirth, scared of the responsibility of raising a child, scared of all the ways she might mess up. But she was also excited. Excited to hold her baby, to watch the child grow, to see what kind of person they would become with Marcus as a father. I'm ready, she said. We're going to be good parents. The best, Marcus agreed. But as they prepared for the baby's arrival, neither Sarah nor Marcus knew that their child would bring challenges they never expected. Not bad challenges, but the kind of wonderful, overwhelming, life-changing challenges that come with loving someone more than you ever thought possible. Their story was about to get even more complicated and even more beautiful. Sarah went into labor on a Tuesday morning in spring. She had been having small pains all night, but she thought they were just the false alarms the doctor had warned her about. It wasn't until she woke up in a puddle of water that she realized this was the real thing. "Marcus," she said, shaking her husband awake. "It's time." Marcus jumped out of bed so fast he almost fell over. "Time? Are you sure? What do I do? Where's the bag?" Sarah couldn't help laughing even though she was scared. "The bag is by the door. The car keys are on the dresser. And you need to put on pants." Marcus looked down and realized he was still in his pajamas. "Right. Pants. Okay." 20 minutes later, they were at the hospital. Sarah's labor progressed quickly and by noon she was ready to push. "I can see the head," Dr. Williams said. "One more big push, Sarah." Sarah squeezed Marcus's hand so hard she was afraid she might break his fingers. With one final push, their baby entered the world. "It's a girl?" Dr. Williams announced. Sarah collapsed back on the pillow, exhausted but elated. Marcus was crying and laughing at the same time as the nurse placed their daughter on Sarah's chest. The baby was tiny and perfect, with dark hair like her mother and her father's nose. She opened her eyes and looked right at Sarah as if to say, "So you're my mom." "Hello, beautiful," Sarah whispered. "I'm so happy to meet you." "She's perfect," Marcus said in wonder. "Absolutely perfect." They had chosen the name Emma Rose, Emma because they both loved it, and Rose after Sarah's mother. Emma Rose Chin was the most beautiful thing either of them had ever seen. The first few weeks with Emma were harder than Sarah had expected. The baby cried a lot at night, and Sarah was exhausted from breastfeeding and lack of sleep. But every time she looked at her daughter's face, she felt a love so strong it took her breath away. Marcus was a devoted father from day one. He changed diapers, walked the floor with Emma when she was fussy, and took night feedings so Sarah could rest. He had been worried about not knowing how to be a good father, but his instincts were perfect. "You're a natural," Sarah told him one morning as she watched him feed Emma a bottle. "I had a good teacher," Marcus said, looking at Sarah with love in his eyes. When Emma was 3 months old, they threw a big party to celebrate her christening. The same friends who had come to their wedding and Sarah's baby shower gathered in the garden behind the house. Emma wore a beautiful white dress that had belonged to Marcus's grandmother, and she slept peacefully through most of the ceremony. But when it was time for the photos, she woke up and smiled her first real smile right at the camera. "She's going to be trouble," Jake predicted, making everyone laugh. As Emma grew, she brought more joy to their lives than Sarah had ever imagined possible. Her first laugh, her first word, which was Dada, much to Marcus's delight, her first steps, every milestone felt like a miracle. The bookstore became even more popular after Emma was born. Sarah would bring the baby to work sometimes and customers loved seeing her. Emma seemed to love books too, always reaching for the colorful covers and babbling as if she was trying to read. "She's going to be smart like her parents," Mrs. Chin said proudly as she watched 18-month-old Emma flip through a picture book. "And stubborn like her parents too," Sarah added as Emma threw the book down and toddled away to explore something else. When Emma turned 2, Marcus surprised Sarah with a special gift. "I want to show you something," he said one Saturday morning. He drove them to a beautiful piece of land outside the city, overlooking a lake. "What is this place?" Sarah asked as they walked through the trees with Emma running ahead of them. "It's ours," Marcus said. "I bought it last month. I thought we could build a house here. Not as big as the mansion but still nice. Somewhere Emma can grow up with room to run and play." Sarah looked around at the peaceful setting. It was perfect, close enough to the city for work, but far enough away to feel like a retreat. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Very serious. What do you think?" Sarah threw her arms around Marcus and kissed him. "I think it's perfect. Emma will love it here." They spent the next year planning and building their dream house. It was smaller than the mansion but still elegant, with big windows that looked out over the lake and a huge yard where Emma could play safely. The night before they moved in, Sarah and Marcus stood in their empty new home, imagining their future there. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Sarah asked. Marcus pulled her close. "Sometimes I still can't believe you're real. That this life is real." "What do you mean?" "I mean I have everything I ever wanted but never thought I deserved. A wife who loves me for who I am, not what I have. A beautiful daughter. A family." Sarah understood. She felt the same way sometimes. The scared, sick woman who had jumped into a stranger's car 3 years ago seemed like a different person entirely. "We've both changed," she said. "You've taught me what it means to be truly loved. And I hope I've taught you that you deserve all the happiness in the world." You have, Marcus said. Every day. They moved into the new house on Emma's 3rd birthday. Emma loved her new room with its view of the lake, and she spent hours playing in the big backyard. Sarah continued to run the bookstore, which had become one of the most popular shops in the city. She had opened a second location and was thinking about writing a book of her own, the story of how she had met Marcus and how their love had saved them both. Marcus had shifted his business focus to projects that helped families and communities. He built affordable housing, community centers, and schools. He said that becoming a father had made him want to make the world better for all children, not just his own. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Marcus and Sarah renewed their vows in their backyard by the lake. Emma, now 4 years old, was their flower girl, dropping petals everywhere and making everyone laugh. 5 years ago, Marcus said in his vows, a scared woman got into my car by mistake. Best mistake that ever happened to both of us. 5 years ago, Sarah replied, I was running from danger and found safety. But I found so much more than that. I found my home, my family, my heart. As they danced to their wedding song under the stars, Sarah thought about all the twists and turns that had brought them to this moment. The danger, the fear, the uncertainty, it had all led to this perfect life. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gotten into your car that night? Sarah asked as they swayed together. Never, Marcus said firmly. Because I believe we were meant to find each other. Maybe not that exact way, but somehow, some way we would have found each other. You really believe that? I have to. Because a love like ours doesn't happen by accident. It's destiny. Sarah smiled and rested her head on Marcus's shoulder. Around them, their friends and family celebrated. Emma chased fireflies in the grass, and the lake reflected the moonlight like diamonds. 3 years later, Sarah gave birth to their son, David Marcus Chin, named after Sarah's father and Marcus himself. Emma was the best big sister, always wanting to help take care of her baby brother. By the time Emma started school, the Chin family had found their rhythm. Sarah ran her successful bookstore empire, Marcus built communities, and together they raised their children with love, values, and just enough privilege to be comfortable but not spoiled. Emma grew up to be as kind as her mother and as determined as her father. David was quieter but just as loving, with a natural talent for bringing people together. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Sarah and Marcus stood on their back porch, watching their children play by the lake. Emma was teaching David how to skip stones, and their laughter echoed across the water. No regrets? Marcus asked, putting his arm around Sarah. Only one, Sarah said. Marcus looked concerned. What? Sarah smiled. I regret that it took me so long to realize I deserved to be this happy. Marcus kissed the top of her head. We have the rest of our lives to make up for lost time. The rest of our lives, Sarah repeated. I like the sound of that. As the sun set over the lake, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Sarah thought about how different her life had turned out from what she had expected. She had thought love was something that happened to other people, that safety was temporary, that happiness was just a lucky break. But Marcus had shown her that love was something you built together, day by day, choice by choice. That safety came from being truly known and accepted. That happiness was not luck but the result of courage, kindness, and commitment. Their story had started with danger and fear, but it had become something beautiful. Not because everything was perfect, they still had challenges and disagreements and bad days like any couple. But because they faced everything together, with love as their foundation. Years passed. Emma graduated from college and started her own nonprofit organization. David became a teacher, following his passion for helping children learn. Marcus and Sarah became grandparents, spoiling their grandchildren just enough to be fun but not enough to be harmful. Sarah eventually wrote her book, the story of how a sick woman running from danger had found the love of her life. It became a bestseller, and she donated the profits to organizations that helped women in crisis. Marcus never forgot where he came from or how lucky he was. He used his wealth and influence to make positive changes in the world, always remembering the lessons Sarah had taught him about what really mattered in life. And through it all, they never stopped being grateful for that night when Sarah had gotten into the wrong car and found the right life. On their 50th wedding anniversary, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, Sarah and Marcus renewed their vows one last time. 50 years ago, Marcus said, his voice still strong despite his age, I thought I was just giving a ride to someone in trouble. I had no idea I was meeting my soulmate. 50 years ago, Sarah replied, her eyes still bright with love, I thought I was running toward safety. I didn't know I was running toward home. They had built a life together that was rich in all the ways that mattered. Not just in money, though they had plenty of that. but in love, in family, in purpose, in joy. Their love story had started with fear and ended with fulfillment. It had begun with a stranger and ended with a soulmate. It had started with running away and ended with running toward each other, always and forever. And if you had asked either of them if they would change anything about their journey, they would have said no. Every moment of danger, every challenge they had faced, every obstacle they had overcome, it had all been worth it to find each other and build this beautiful life together. Because sometimes, getting into the wrong car turns out to be the most right thing you ever do. And sometimes, the love that saves you is the love that lasts forever. The end.